In American public schools, students who speak English as a second or other language are usually tested for English proficiency, and then if found non-proficient, are usually placed into a special program, often called an English Learners or English Language Learners program, otherwise known as an ELL program. As the ELL coordinator at my school, I am often asked how to help ELL students. At Waialua High and Intermediate School, a small school located on Oahu in the former plantation town of Waialua, we usually have about 25 to 30 students active in our ELL program, while we also have several students who have exited the program who we monitor for at least 2 years to make sure they are doing okay in their classes. In this video, I will share what we have learned about students in our ELL program and how to best serve them and help them succeed. By watching this video, I hope you will learn something that can help you to better serve your English language learners. So just how do you know who the ELL students are in your classes? Well, your ELL coordinator should, like I do, send you a list of active and monitored ELL students. But if you have big classes, it can be challenging to remember who is who. The pure type ELL students, or the newcomers to the country, are often more distinguishable because they barely speak a word of English and usually remain silent in class as they go through a typical silent period, trying to adjust to their new school environment, which can take a week to more likely a year to do so, depending on many factors, including personal traits, situational and environmental factors, and previous language development and competence. This means it's hard to know what to expect. Then you may also have ELL students who are not as easy to identify because they were born here or came when they were very young. So they may converse well and blend in with all the other students. I think the best thing to do before making assumptions about students is just to ask your ELL coordinator or registrar for a list of active and monitored ELL students, so you may make the needed accommodations they likely need. At Wailua, our students come from various countries, including the Philippines, Thailand, Brazil, Samoa, Palestine, France, Cambodia, Laos, and sometimes other countries. This is different from the mainland, where there is a bigger Hispanic, African, and Middle Eastern population, and even different from other parts of our Hawaiian Islands, where there are more Asian students. But our students have many of the same experiences as other immigrant and bilingual students. Some come to us at a very low English proficiency level. Some may not even be literate in their native language with spotty school attendance in their home country. This makes things extra challenging as these students not only lack language skills but study skills as well. And then you have some students who can read, or what we call decode, but not understand, and some students who struggle with decoding but are good at listening comprehension. Others learned English in their native country, possibly at a private school, and become proficient in English quite easily and quickly. Most, however, are somewhere in between. The point is that we receive a variety of students with different backgrounds, different situations and motivations, and ranges of English proficiency levels. So, how do you teach students with such varying language and cultural backgrounds? First, I would say, do what you do with all your students. Get to know them and make them feel comfortable with you and in your classroom. To do so, I think requires being approachable. Smile, say hello when they walk into your room or you see them at recess. Believe it or not, you might seem a little intimidating to them. Instead of speaking louder, like some people do when speaking to non-native speakers, do the opposite. Lower your voice, speak a little slower without being insulting, and use a gentle, warm approach. Take the time to talk to your students while they're at their desk or during non-instructional time. A way to find out if students have questions is to get them to write down their questions or do reflections, and you can even write back. Of course, you can also learn more about them by getting them to write about their lives, their interests, and their dreams. Be encouraging and show them that you care. I like to remember what Maya Angelou once said. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. Did you ever go talk to teachers by yourself?
Before, no, because I was scared to ask them, to ask help for them. I'm shy to ask because a lot of students are too noisy, so that I rather to ask after school.
Help you.
They explain it better, and if they see you struggling doing the work, they come to you and help you, and then explain in a better way and give you an example.
Walking alone is really hard, miss.
How come? What do you mean, Ritzel?
Because I have no friends and I don't know that there's Filipino students here yet. So I was alone. And I don't know my classes here and stuff. It was hard for me.
When students are comfortable with you, they're more likely to ask you for help when they need it and even do better work for you. I like to start the year with a lot of icebreaker and team bonding activities. You could easily find some of these on the internet, and perhaps you already know a few. For me, the best way I've gotten to know my students has been at lunch, during class parties, and outside of the classroom. We live by the beach, so I often have class picnics at the beach after school or meet students for a hike. Students tend to let their guard down off campus and become more comfortable with you in such casual settings. This may not be something all teachers would want to do, and there are many other simple ways to get to know your students. Maybe not so simple, but doing a service learning project with students is also a great way to get to know them, while at the same time, students reap all the benefits of service learning, including getting to know their community better. In addition to relationship building activities, I also try to create a supportive physical environment in my classroom by making the room a pleasant and comfortable place, keeping it clean, and keeping my walls and bulletin boards decorated with motivational sayings, student achievements, student pictures, and helpful information. By getting to know your students better, you also learn where they are at, how they learn best, how you can help them, and about the challenges they are facing. At Wilo High and Intermediate, many of our high school ELL students work after school, many of them as classroom cleaners. Knowing this, I try to make arrangements for them to come to me or another tutor after they are finished working or during lunch or class time. Some of them also work late hours at a fast food restaurant and come to class very tired, so I try to be sensitive to this fact. This just shows that many ELL students may have more on their plate than the average student. Do you have to work?
Yes, because to save some money to go to college and also not to rely on my parents.
Another benefit of getting to know your ELL students, or any student in fact, is you may find out their interests and encourage them to get involved in school sports or clubs they may not have the confidence to join on their own. My co-teacher, Terry Yamanoha, and I love to get to know our students and get them on school athletic teams or in whatever activities suit their interests. As a result of our efforts, we have had ELL students become all-star athletes, finalists in a student video competition, and honor roll and valedictorian recipients. Also, many of our ELL students have gone to college. Finally, getting to know students better may also help when trying to understand why there is sometimes a lack of progress. Naturally, teachers worry when a student does not seem to be making progress, and sometimes teachers consider having the student tested for special education. However, other factors need to be ruled out first, such as the student's school attendance in the native and new country, experience with the new school system, family environment and the homeschool relationship, basic survival needs not being met, learning style, and perhaps, most importantly, how the student compares to other students at the same age with the same academic, linguistic, and cultural background, and whether the school is providing a culturally and linguistically appropriate education. This leads to my second suggestion for teaching ELL students. Besides getting to know them, you should ensure that your instruction is culturally and linguistically appropriate. Working with our school psychologist, Dr. Shane Myers, we put together the following list of how to do this. Before providing a task or assignment, teach thinking skills or metacognition. For example, before reading, model the reading process with think alouds, that is showing how you think and what you do as you read, and teach how to use thinking maps or graphic organizers. Teach study skills, for example, how to mark the text, and for advanced students, how to take notes, such as Cornell notes, although you may want to give beginning ELL students notes they can mark up as they listen to you or as they read. Provide students with a copy of PowerPoint or class lecture notes or outline so students can focus attention on learning the material rather than on taking notes. Pre-teach or highlight key concepts or vocabulary that will be discussed. For example, use direct instruction with new words, teach pronunciation, use student-friendly language, give a list, post vocabulary as a word wall. Use semantic word webs with pictures, synonyms, antonyms, parts of speech, and sentence examples. Establish an environment free of discrimination in which students can be comfortable asking for assistance or stating their lack of understanding. You may want to establish a nonverbal cue for students and teachers to communicate understanding and checks for understanding to allow students to save face. For example, ask for fingers to show the amount that was understood. 1 meaning I understood very little, and 5, I got it. Finally, determine students' instructional level in the subject material. Then, during the task or instruction, keep statements concise and to the point, especially with directions, main concepts, academic language, and strategies needed to complete classroom tasks. Repeat and paraphrase important information and ensure input is comprehensible. Use pictures, gestures, and body language as much as possible. Avoid jargon, slang, and sarcasm. Ask pointed questions to check for comprehension, but not necessarily in front of the whole class. For example, you could ask students, "What is the capital of Brazil?" instead of, "Do you understand?" Meet with students one-on-one and ask students to repeat directions to you, but be sure to increase wait time for responses and then clarify as needed. Differentiate and provide instruction at the student's instructional level. For example, providing 7th grade students instruction at a 7th grade level when their instructional level is really a 3rd grade level will lead to gaps. Instead, differentiate the 7th grader's instruction to a 3rd grade level. Encourage students to mark their texts. That is, have them highlight or underline main ideas, circle key terms, and any words they don't know, write in the margins, and so on. Convey information in a way that is meaningful or relates to the students and their interests or strengths. For example, start with something meaningful from the students' lives and use it as a springboard to interest them in academic concepts. This is what we call scaffolding. Do not assume students have all the necessary schema or background, for example, on American history or American traditions, because they probably don't. And this is needed to understand new concepts. Intersperse easy or layup questions with more difficult ones to build confidence. Perform regular checks for understanding. Don't just wait for students to approach you for help. Circulate the room, monitor students, and meet one-on-one with students. Use multiple modes of modality or varied ways including visuals and written instructions to deliver information, not just lecture, and allow different ways for students to talk about their learning. For example, the think, pair, share strategy and cooperative learning, and to show what they've learned, including project-based learning, new media, and visual representations, for example, a comic strip, to supplement traditional methods. Model appropriate behavior and language. Try to teach or show students what to do as opposed to telling them what not to do. For example, model standard English with students, but allow them to respond the way they speak without making corrections that will make them feel self-conscious. Instead of making direct corrections, repeat back a question or phrase by modeling it correctly. This is a subtle way to help students who will likely pick up on the correction without embarrassment. Remember, ELL students are not deaf. so you do not have to speak louder than necessary. Pair students with exemplar students or peer buddies, perhaps someone who speaks the student's native language. Encourage students to show their work when computing problems. Allow students to take pictures of important visual concepts or to audio record lectures. Don't become so focused on comprehension that you leave out rigor. Keep lessons interesting with rigor and relevance, including purposeful, real-life lessons and higher-level critical thinking questions. When you are finished with a task or assignment, I would recommend following up with students. Meet with them to review words and ideas that they did not understand or are unfamiliar with. You might accept partial credit and then identify where students went wrong in the problem-solving process and follow up with instruction from the point of error. Also monitor students' current instructional level, and I recommend offering extra tutoring during class, recess, or after school. These are just some suggestions, but we as teachers can use our professional judgment to decide which approaches will work best with our students. As professionals, we also need to be careful when diagnosing students. ELL students may show similar characteristics associated with various learning problems, including being slow to begin or to finish tasks, seeming forgetful, inattentive, and hyperactive. Samuel Ortiz points out what may be actually causing some of these behaviors. For example, he says that when ELL students seem slow to begin tasks, they may have limited comprehension of the classroom language, so they are not always clear on how to properly begin tasks or what must be done in order to start them or complete them correctly. And when ELL students seem slow to finish tasks, they often need to translate material from English into their native language in order to be able to work with it, and then must translate it back to English in order to demonstrate it. This process extends the time for completion of time-limited tasks that may be expected in the classroom. And when ELL students seem forgetful, well, ELLs cannot always fully encode information as efficiently into memory as monolinguals because of their limited comprehension of the language, and will often appear to be forgetful when in fact the issue relates more to their lack of proficiency with English. In addition, ELL students may seem inattentive, hyperactive, impulsive, distractible, disruptive, disorganized, and so on, but there are usually good reasons for this. So before you diagnose students as having a learning disability, really think about and find out what the cause of the problem is. Keep in mind that every child is different and there will always be exceptions. Remember, every child is special and has something great to offer the world. Show them that you care. Learn their stories and help them with their journeys.